I guess we're ready to start, huh? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the November meeting of the Inland Wetlands Watercourse Commission. Any citizens here who'd like to speak about anything on the agenda? If not, the minutes, gentlemen, the last meeting. Go over them. If there's any corrections, additions, deletions, speak up. If not, can I have a motion to approve?
May I ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
On page 5 of 7, for application number 23-10 WF, there's a sentence in the second paragraph that says, the application involves regulated activity and floodplain filling at 554 Berlin Turnpike. The floodplain filling will result in a net increase of approximately 750 cubic yards of flood storage volume. And quite frankly, I found the sentence a little confusing. If the floodplain filling will result in a net increase of flood storage volume, I'm wondering if it can be modified to say the floodplain filling and the proposed mitigation within the floodway for the proposed flood storage loss will result in a net increase of approximately 750 cubic yards of flood storage volume.
Certainly no reason why that can't be amended.
Just makes it clearer for future reading.
Can I have a motion to approve the change?
Motion to approve the change.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Anything else, Bill?
Further down, the other business to come property before the commission, 1906 Berlin Turnpike. The town was obtaining a third-party review, and I note, I recollect that the applicant asked for his consultant to be present during that review time. Is that your recollection?
Yes, he did. And from a staff standpoint and representing the commission, we didn't feel it was appropriate to have both of them together. We were looking for an unbiased third-party opinion.
Okay, so that occurred after the meeting. Because in the meeting, the meeting left off with the applicant requesting to have their
He requested it, but we did not. From a staff standpoint, we didn't feel it was appropriate.
Okay.
Because we were seeking, as I say, an unbiased third-party opinion.
I see. Okay. So the minutes should the minutes reflect that or not?
It's up to the commission.
I don't think it really needs to state that. I mean, unless you're adamant about it.
I'm not adamant about it.
Okay. Anybody else have feelings about that? Next, Bill, anything else?
No, that's all.
Anything else? If not, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Approve the minutes as amended.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Next up is the public hearing, application 23-07W, proposal by the Shepherd Family Holding LLC to reestablish a wetland boundary on Lot 2A, Block 107 at 758 4 Road. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing? Anybody?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing on 20-7.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening to you all. Charlie Talmadge, President of Development Planning Solutions, 225 North Main Street, Bristol, Connecticut, for the applicant Shepherd Family Holdings. You may recall I was here a couple of months ago. We had a little confusion about how the agenda was written, whether or not we were relocating or reestablishing or amending a boundary. So I asked that be tabled until I had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Horwell and iron that out. That meeting has since happened. So we are back there before you this evening with the correct map and the correct request. I was engaged at the beginning of 2023 by the Shepherd family to evaluate this property for potential sale. We looked at several concepts of how the property could be developed and noted that the wetland issue was one that we wanted to get some more clarity on. So I've engaged David Lord from Soil Resource Consultants to come out and do the field work. And I'll have David speak to his field work and what is on the map here. I'm happy to take any questions from you, or we can wait until David has had a chance to speak. I'll let him go through his findings.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is David Lord. I'm a professional soil scientist and environmental consultant. My company is Soil Resource Consultants, and I have an office in Meriden, Connecticut. What I'd like to do is give you a brief overview of the findings of my on-site investigation, which was completed in January, actually on January 17th of this year. I believe you have a copy of this in your application folder. During that on-site investigation, I had the opportunity to place 29 flags in this portion of the property. There is an existing storm manhole discharge point here, which feeds into the wetland, runs along the road frontage, and also deflected by sediment within the limits of the wetland boundary. We found wetland soils in this area alone on the property. Town maps, again, based on old generalized soil survey information, showed a wetland that was up in this portion of the property and showed one down in here. Actually did not show a wetland where it actually exists today. That's the gist. The soil information is in the report. We have two kinds of soils located in upper area to the north and a broader, flatter area that extends off-site, discharging to a culvert system on the adjacent property to the south at this location here. Soils, just to talk very briefly, consist of Berlin, Merrimack, and disturbed soils. Portions of the property up in this area, ground surface has been altered, and also in this general area of the site, there's evidence of some regrading, not filling or cutting, but the surface layer is too disturbed to be able to classify it in a natural soil order. Again, in the report, there is a sketch map which shows the approximate upland soil boundaries, as well as the depiction of the wetlands on the site. My own field sketch from the notes during the on-site investigation. That's really all I have to present at this time. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions members may have.
So you surveyed the whole site?
Yes, I surveyed this.
Okay,
Portion that was shown there.
so where you've shown the wetland, what is the southern border of the wetland?
The southern border follows a fill slope that is in this entrance to an existing industrial.
So that's a driveway.
This is a driveway.
So that I can see the curved shape where you put flags on the map, but then it just seems to stop at some point.
Well, again, I'm looking at the subject property of the boundary amendment. I'm really not authorized to go on to a different property.
Okay, that's what I
delineate the
didn't
wetlands.
understand. So that's a property boundary.
This is a property boundary right here.
Okay.
The
gotcha.
wetland, I can tell you just from visual,
Yeah.
extends generally parallel to 4 Rod Road to a point where it turns to the east on the fill slope of the existing.
So that's
access.
all natural meadow or woods, or there's not buildings in that
No,
area?
it's basically open ground. There's a little bit of grass in here, then it slopes down to the east, transitioning into shrub and then into shrub and trees. There's an existing dense stand of Phragmites grass in the wetland.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
think in your conclusions on your work that you did on this property, correct me if I'm mistaken, I believe you said there was no significant impacts as far as wetlands except for that one corner. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I
There
didn't.
was no significant impacts as far as additional wetlands aside from that one corner. Is that correct?
These are the only wetlands that are on the subject property.
Other areas are just wet. Is that correct?
Up in the remaining portion, yes, there's some very irregular topographic relief there. There's some dip areas. If you go out at the time, shortly after a rainstorm, you could probably see some shallow ponding, shallow pooling.
Intermittent kind
Those areas were looked at, but they're not wetland by any stretch of the imagination. That's more of a textural where the water sits on the surface and slowly sinks into the ground.
Jim, the town had an independent review of this
Yes, sir.
survey
Yes, we did. In the report is
in your,
in your package.
oh, okay, yeah.
And our consultant concurred with
Same thing.
Mr. Lord's analysis of the site.
Not, on the original map that the town had on record, what would you say the other wetlands were?
Well, that is usually it's a generalization and enlargement, if you will, of the 1955 published soil survey for Hereford County. It showed an extent of wetlands up in this area of the site, and it also showed one that I'm taking to be in this general area of the site. The center, where I actually found wetlands at present, wasn't shown as wet. So you had a localized pocket. Yes, here's a copy of it.
Yeah.
A little bit in the northeast corner and a little bit in the southeast corner, consistent with what I've described as the extension of this.
If that was out there and that was only where you have it marked, that's where it was definitely wetlands, but it wasn't anywhere else on the
Yes.
property.
Again, this document, generally, it's usually based on the 55 soil survey. It's enlarged, it's not necessarily ground proofed, so the boundaries can shift. When it's put on an aerial photograph, it's not unusual to have some shifting of those boundaries versus what is actually on the site.
And they used to hay that for a long time. And I know there was never wetlands out there that I ever saw, and they hated it. So, Jim, and you're good with
Yes.
with this?
As I mentioned, our consultant
Right.
concurred.
Yeah, I read that. It seemed like it was almost the same, basically the same thing.
I have a comment and some questions. So basically, based on topography, the wetland boundary that you show is at the low point. Where you delineate the
Yes.
wetlands is basically the low point of the property, so.
Yes, you have the potential for surface runoff in an easterly direction and in a southerly direction towards the wetland. This is the lowest point on this particular piece of property.
So it makes sense.
Yes.
Second question that I have is the report by Land Tech. Land Tech delineated the property to the south. The Land Tech's line is for, well, first of all, let me back up a little bit. The town GIS shows 758 Four Rod Road as lot number 2, 5.9 acre property owned by PYC Realty, which is the industrial property.
Jump in here for a second. So the Shepherd family owned all of this,
Owned past tense or present tense?
owned past
Past
tense,
tense.
758
Okay,
as a contiguous parcel. This was all one parcel.
okay,
During the process, and I'd have to go look at the file, I was going to ask you about this in a minute. They exercised their free cut and they sold 758. So we are
Okay.
left with what is now known as parcel B. Our
okay.
GIS has not caught up to that yet.
Well, the GIS does distinguish 2 lots.
So it's parcel B that is Shepherd Family Holdings land, and it's the subject of this application.
Okay,
We may need to correct that in the file. That
Right.
It's not lot 2A, it's B.
okay, but it's noted as 04 Rod Road in the GIS, 758 is the
It's
industrial property.
758 is the building.
Okay, so the parcel in question is not 758,
That's parcel C.
parcel B. Okay,
And Bill, just for your clarification, until a structure is constructed on a parcel, there are no house numbers per se. So there are probably a couple dozen parcels on 4 Rod Road that are vacant that are listed as 04 Rod Road.
Again, when we started this process, this was all one lot with that 758 assigned address. So we just unfortunately got comfortable using that.
fine.
And I will get with Jim just to make sure that.
Well,
I'm just trying to understand.
I believe that at one time was called Shepherd Manufacturing, wasn't it?
It was Shepherd Manufacturing, and then he's changed manufacturing into an online sales-based business where he was warehousing items there, and then it was sold. And this year, I believe it was closed.
Okay, so the delineation in the report that was done by Land Tech pertains to 758. It
This
pertains to
area
the
here.
parcel to the south of the subject parcel. So when you say the two consultants got together and agreed on the line, they were looking at comprehensively at both properties then?
I would say so. When we were out in the field that day, we walked all the way down to the driveway and looked at it, so.
The only thing I will say to that is, in general, I believe the application for the boundary amendment is on the parcel B.
Mhm.
It doesn't have any relationship to that.
Right.
The property to the south. Land Tech's report went beyond it.
Well, it looked like it was exclusive to it based on their flags 1 through 21, and the intermittent water course flagging was done on 758. It wasn't done on the subject parcel. Based on their map and their report. Done on parcel, but it was done on the
Yeah.
industrial parcel.
Oh, okay. Well, over here, this may be the property line that comes down this way.
No, that's the property.
Oh, is it right there? Okay. Okay.
Whichever you done the other part. I just making sure that you are together, your folks are together on it.
Yeah, so their flags would, so to speak, go back to the previous question and sort of close the loop.
They're
over here.
exclusively on the property, on the parcel to the south.
So they'll marry up at the property line with David's work
Correct.
and establish a larger boundary for us.
Yeah, I'm just
Parcel line.
making sure that the consultants were eventually got on the same page.
Yeah, that, personally, I don't have an issue with what Land Tech is showing as wetlands to the south of the subject property.
Okay.
Because I have looked at it
And
and I
they
don't see
agree
any.
with, and they agree with your line.
Yes.
Land Tech, was Land Tech working on the property to the south, or were they working on the subject property as well?
They were reviewing both.
Both properties. So, and you reached agreement with Land Tech.
I am in agreement with it, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, if you drive up, you can see the wetlands. Goes all the way down to almost that driveway.
Yeah, there is a culvert somewhere in this area, a concrete structure that goes under the road next to wetland.
The other side.
On the other side,
Yeah.
so that's pretty evident.
Yeah.
It's overgrown a little bit, but it's there.
Anybody have anything else?
No, sir.
So, Jim,
No, I'm all set.
Jim, the motion is to approve the
To accept the
Except
delineation.
delineation of the,
So we gotta close the public hearing.
yes, yeah,
I want to see if anyone from the public is.
right. Yes, I'm sorry. Does anybody have any questions or comments to either us or the applicants? If not,
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on 23-10WF.
can I have a second?
I have another question.
But hang on.
So what, Mr. Talmadge, what is your request? What are you requesting of the commission for this?
Is there still open?
Well, there's been no second, so yes.
Our request really is just an accurate map. So we had done the field work, Land Tech has done subsequent field work. We were comfortable with this boundary, and we want to make sure going forward that that's the boundary on the map.
So in your letter of August 22nd, you were requesting a boundary change to ensue that the wetlands maps coincide with field conditions. So you're asking for the inland wetland and watercourses map for the town of Berlin. You're asking for a boundary change on that map to reflect
This.
that. That's what you're asking for.
These are the actual conditions, so. we want the-
So the map that you're asking us to revise is our inland and wetlands and watercourses map.
That's correct.
Thank you.
We have a motion to close the public hearing. Can I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Now, can I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve application 23-10WF. Line boundaries.
I think it's 07.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
7W.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Next up in public hearing is application 23-10WF, proposal by 554 Berlin Turnpike Associates LLC to construct an entrance driveway and site improvements in the regulated areas on lot 14, block 83, number 522 Berlin Turnpike. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Make a motion to open the public hearing on application 23-10WF.
Can I have a second? All in favor? Who is up for the applicant?
Good evening, Attorney Timothy Sullivan on behalf of the applicant, 550 to 554 Berlin Turnpike Associates LLC. With me tonight is Steve Judas from Cole Engineering, principal. He's subbing for Bart Levay. Bart's been in front of this commission a few times on this property. We'll go into a little bit of history later, but the public hearing tonight concerns lot number 14 of block 83, which is 554 Berlin Turnpike. Has a couple of structures on it right now. That would be the ABC property. As you're coming south on the turnpike, just before Woodlawn Road on the right-hand side, the ABC property. Later in tonight's agenda, item B of the other business, the same applicant is seeking to modify permit number 20-07WF, which was granted by this commission on January 5th of 2021, subsequently modified in May of 2023. That application it's a little confusing, but the application said it was for lot 13, right? Lot 13 would be the driveway in, as well as there was a proposed residential development to the rear of the ABC property. It's not depicted here. It's depicted on the map that you'll see at the later item B agenda. But when the application was submitted in 2020, approved in 2021, it was for both properties. It only listed lot 13 on the application, but on the print, it showed all of the regulated activity on both properties, floodplain and wetland activity and review activity. It had all the impacts, and I'll let Steve go over all that. Steve Judas go over all that. But it approved the entire proposed activity, both on lot 13 and on lot 14. We met with Jim, myself and Bart Levay met with Jim. The applicant at some point is going to want to cut, he's going to want to sell this property by itself, the ABC property. And we realized that there is no inland wetlands approval just for lot 14. That is for 13, but it included regulated activity on both lots. So we asked Jim, how do you want to, can we cut out 14? And we thought about it. I've talked about it a few times. We had a meeting or two about this. We thought the cleanest way to do that would just do a separate public hearing on lot 14, even though all of the regulated activity that's being proposed on lot 14 right now has already been approved in that earlier 20-07 permit. I'll let Steve.
What you're looking to do is split from prior approval in half.
That's exactly what we're trying to do. There are later on in the modification part of the meeting, we're going to be modifying that permit a little bit because of changes that were made. We added a cul-de-sac or a circle and things like that. We dropped one of the buildings. I'll let Steve go over that. And the only change to this is that we widened the driveway in from 24 feet to 30 feet. And that was complete. That was not in the upland review area. It was only in the floodplain area. And as Commissioner Jackson mentioned earlier, the actual proposal, the overall proposal, increases the floodplain storage by 750 cubic yards. We're filling some areas or excavating other areas with a net increase in the floodplain storage.
What was the reason for increasing the width?
Just because it's that's the town road. The town road is 30 feet wide. So we thought it appropriate to widen it to the length of the width of the town road.
Who's going to own the road? Is ABC?
The property owners, the property owner.
Or ABC or the
Private roadway.
It'll be a private road.
roadway?
It'll be a private road. I tried to explain this in the application, in the narrative of the application. There's no easy way to describe it in a narrative. So take some questions out. Hopefully I provided some clarity to that. The public hearing for lot 14 tonight involves activity the commission previously approved and as stated. We're simply trying to, as Commissioner Rogan noted, split the previous approval. At this time, I'll ask Steve to come up and go over some of you've heard these before. The impacts haven't changed, except for, like I said, the small little increase in the floodplain area for the width of the road. And that's on lot 14. Thanks.
Good evening. For the record, Stephen Judas with the Office of Harry Colason, 876 South Main Street, Plantsville. If the plan has the designations, the area, the numbers 1 through 5 identify the wetland impact areas, upland review impact areas, and A through D are the areas for the floodplain impacts. Our mitigation from this, again, pretty much lines up with everything that we had before, with the exception of the width of the driveway that Tim had mentioned before. A is the floodplain mitigation. This is where we're going to compensate for the floodplain activity filling in this area. We're going to excavate this and create wet meadow out of it. We're creating approximately, well, we're cutting about 915 cubic yards out of that area in order to compensate for the filling that we're doing with the driveway. So that's our I'm sorry. I went the wrong way. Let me back up real quick. A is the filling of the floodplain in this area, and that's the 950. The compensation area, which is B, is 1,667 cubic feet. So that's where we're getting our net increase of 752 yards of flood storage area. Area C, which is this area here, is a temporary driveway construction, just for the purpose of creating this mitigation area. That would be a temporary driveway that would be brought back to natural conditions when complete. We have a temporary impact at D for a sewer connection. There's an existing sewer connection here. That was part of the original plan. I think we want that because if the improvements for this driveway happen with the ABC property, we don't have to cut into the driveway again. So we're proposing to replace that lateral in that location. So our total activity in the flood hazard areas is 78,000 square feet. Our net increase in flood storage is 752 cubic yards of net increase with that activity. Our wetland impacts, designation number 1, again, we're within the upland review area to create that mitigation area. It's about 23,000 square feet of activity. We're proposing activity to be 5 feet off of the edge of the wetland. That's consistent with what was originally proposed. We are going to maintain any mature trees in that area within 15 feet of the wetland as well. That was part of the original original plan. Item number 2, we talked about during the flood storage. That's the temporary access road to the mitigation area. That again will be restored back to natural conditions when complete. Area number 3 is a little bit of the driveway impacts the upland review area in that location. It's approximately 1,500 square feet of upland review area impact in that area for the proposed driveway. And number 4, which is another upland review area impact for the proposed driveway construction. It's about 6,000 square feet of upland review area impacted for that area, that construction. And the last one is number 5, again, the wetland impact for the sanitary sewer reconstruction. Anything in that area would again be restored back to natural conditions when completed. So our activity within the 50-foot upland review area is about 34,000 square feet. And we're not proposing any direct wetland impacts consistent with the original approval. So these numbers pretty much line up with what was part of the original approval. We're just trying to separate it for the ABC piece.
So the 6-foot increase in the width of the roadway is occurring to the, what is that, south or?
To the south, yes, to the south edge. If you notice, we have a sidewalk that runs here. We got a grass strip. We basically moved this edge of the driveway right up to the edge of the sidewalk in that location. So we didn't move anything closer to the wetlands or the upland.
Right, so there's no increase in impact to the upland review area due to the change in the width.
Yep.
That's really the only thing that's changed other than splitting the permit into 2 pieces.
That's correct.
You went out there, Jim, right? You're good with this, there's no.
Yeah, we've had several discussions on splitting of the properties themselves. And as the applicant had mentioned, there is really no change to what was previously approved. It's more of just putting it into 2 pieces.
Anybody else have any other questions?
I might defer to Attorney Capola for her opinion if there was any.
So I did not, let me just come forward so that I get picked up. Jennifer Capola from Corporation Counsel's Office, Seal and D'Onofrio. I did not participate in your prior hearing. So again, in terms of the considerations with that application, it's not something that I am familiar with. I think you've received testimony from the consultant with regard to impacts, and I don't have anything to add with regard to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody from the audience of citizens out there who has any comments or questions? There's no other comments or questions from the board.
Just for the record, I meant to, during my initial presentation, incorporate by reference the previous permit and application material. So ask that that be part of the record.
So you would just typically vote on that? That's the best way to do it. If you're going to incorporate a prior record from another application.
We have to close the public hearing first.
No, you would do it during the course of the public hearing because you're voting to again include that record in this record. So that's not something that would occur after the close of public hearing.
It's additional information.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm only doing that because of all the approvals.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. You really have to do it. All right, well, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't.
Sorry, word this.
Make
So
a motion to
include the record and then the application number, I believe you said was 2007.
2007 W2007.
So you would simply move to include the record on that application from the public hearing and again, reference the application number in this record for this public hearing.
Can I have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion to that effect.
Can I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
No other discussion. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing on application 23-10WF.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, can I have a motion to approve the new,
I'll make a motion to approve the new rescinded or revised application 23.
hang on,
Dave, you want to just state the application number 23-10WF.
Okay. I'll make a Motion to approve the application 23-.
We can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, because you already changed it. Gentlemen, that's it.
Thank you.
Now, regular meetings. First one up is application 23-09W, proposal by NCBP East Berlin LLC to construct an impervious outdoor storage area and discharge drainage into regulated area on lot 17-2-133-34B at 191 Commerce Street, East Berlin. Up for the applicant.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Pulowski. I'm a licensed civil engineer with Solely Engineering. Office is located in Monroe, Connecticut, here on behalf of Newcastle Building Products to talk about 191 Commerce Street. I know my colleague Rob Pryor was here about a month or two ago and walked through the application, so I will walk through it quickly again tonight just to recap everything, and then I'll answer any questions you may have. So our client is Newcastle Building Products. They currently own this 12,000 and change square foot building at 191 Commerce Street. It's a completely functional and operational facility. They are an importer and exporter of building and roofing materials, and they are quite busy. So they're looking to expand their facility so they can take in more building materials. In order to do that, the only way to really go is to the rear of the property. So this dark gray area that you'll see on the map right here. And to do that, as we're approaching the rear of the site, there are wetlands located to the rear. So the wetlands were flagged by Jim McManus back in July of this year. They were located by our surveying team, and then they're shown on the map here. So we are actually outside of the 50-foot upland review area, regulated area buffer, but we are discharging our stormwater drainage from the expansion project into the regulated area. So that is the reason that we are before you tonight. There is no building proposed at this time. They're just going to be storing like lumber and other miscellaneous building and roofing items. And again, there's no direct wetland impact, and we're not impacting the buffer. We're increasing the impervious area by about 0.8 acres, but we're treating all the stormwater that's run off from the increase and on the site. And we're also reducing the peak stormwater flows that are leaving the site. So as you enter the property from the front of Commerce Street here and go to the rear, it gently slopes off down to the back. So we're proposing a retaining wall in the rear with the security fence on top. That's going to help separate also the building products and people and everything else from the wetland buffer. So it's a drop wall, so you're going to have like a 6 to 8 foot wall, and then a fence on top, so no one's going to be entering. It's not going to be any building products or anything like that. That'll be going in the regulated area. And again, we are outside of that. So the trucks come in normal hours. All the light, we're proposing a series of light poles also along the back. All that light's directed away from the wetlands and away from any natural habitat there and woods. And we really just tried to keep as much of that regulated area intact as possible when we were designing the plans. So I know, again, Rob walked through this from my office about a month or two ago. So that's why I'm keeping it brief tonight, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
And that's just going to be bituminous paved?
That's correct.
Just there's no structures, no.
No structure, just besides the fence and the
Right.
wall. So there's no additional building being proposed per se.
This is pallet material being moved around forklifts, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So currently their yard is completely full, so they need the room and they have the land.
So is the wall a retaining wall for fill?
Yes,
Going in?
correct. So the current grade slopes down.
Yeah.
We're gonna build a wall up and then fill up against it, so that'll be flat, and then it'll drop down to the wells. So it's a fill.
How much material are you bringing in?
I'd say a few thousand yards, not too much. There's probably like a 4 or 5 foot fill across the site. It's nothing crazy. The wall in the back is like 5 or 6 feet. So, but again, it slopes as you meet the highest point there of the wall. So there definitely will be some material. But then again, you're also going to have, we have an underground stormwater system. So that's going to take up a big chunk of area there. So you'll lose import, if you will.
Yeah, can you talk about that, the storm handling of the storm water?
Yeah, I actually have the plan here. One second.
Maybe we've already seen it.
I'm sure we have.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I know it was over a month ago, so. can all see that? You want me to rotate it some
A little
more?
bit more, please.
Perfect. So you get to the site in the front here. There's two main access drives that we're maintaining. We're really not doing anything. You can see this dash line right here. Everything's in the front of the site, not touching it all. And then again in the back, outside of this dash line is your regulated area. These triangles say WF. Those are your wetland flags. So you have your wetlands, you have your 50-foot review area, which we're out of, and then you have our retaining wall in the back here. So all the grade gently flows. We're doing 2% pitch across the proposed parking area. You have an existing catch basin here. We're collecting that stormwater, routing it to a water quality unit, hydrodynamic separator. Then you have a series of 2 catch basins or 3 catch basins along the back, pitching that back towards the center. It enters the water quality unit and into our StormTech PDS underground system. And then it'll fill up, gently infiltrate back into the ground, and then it'll exit to a manhole. And then there's a level spreader and a perforated 24-inch HDPE pipe. So the water will be treated by the hydrodynamic separator, infiltrate, and also collect in the underground system, then go out and into this perforated pipe where it'll gently percolate into like a level spreader and overflow as it will. So
How big is that system, out of curiosity, square footage?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I apologize. So I had a guess.
And that's all under the pavement?
That's correct. You never will see it.
Is
They're
that
big.
plastic tunnel stuff?
Exactly. Yep.
And can you tell us, like, is the bottom of it above the water table?
That's correct. Yeah. So the back here is at elevation 37-ish where the wetlands are. The bottom of our system is at 41.5. So we're 4.5 feet above to the bottom, and then we're another 4.5 feet to the chambers. So they're going to take up a pretty decent chunk of volume there. So, but we are adding impervious, so we wanted to make sure we were treating it appropriately.
I believe we talked about the Abtec sponges in the catch basins.
Yes, so we did receive those from the town engineer. We're going to be putting them in our plan set. We haven't submitted the plan. We're submitted the planning and zoning. We've yet to be heard by them. We're still finishing up with all of you. So, but we did receive the details for such catch basin inserts from the engineering department. So thank you.
You have no problem with this, right? This
No,
is-
we've met with the applicant several times to work our way through the project. We're satisfied.
And I know where this property is. You got a good chunk of property back there, so.
Yeah, goes pretty far back.
Yeah.
So they're just running out of space.
Now, can we approve this? Can I, Jim, do it? Do we have to wait?
You could take an action.
30 days.
No, that was the last time he was here was the 30-day.
Correct.
So, any other questions for the applicant? No, if not, I'd like to make a motion to either approve or deny.
I'll make a motion to approve application 23-09W.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you for your time. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Next up, application 23-11W, proposal by Jeffrey Mashaw to construct an addition to an existing building within an upland review area on lot 6-3, block 90, number 496, Four Rod Road.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commission members. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Mashad. I'm the owner of Complete Sheet Metal located at 496 Four Rod Road in Berlin, Connecticut. We're here in front of the board looking to get approval in an upland review area for an addition to our existing industrial building, cold storage shed, 25 feet by 50 feet. We've hired REMA Ecological Services to see if there's any potential for adverse short-term or long-term impacts to the wetland area, found to be negligible at this time. I don't have any props. You should have everything in the, everything there. I didn't bring the site plan. So if you have any questions, please feel free.
When I read it, it didn't seem like there was any.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I can make a comment, if you do go through
Yeah.
REMA's analysis and review of the project, it's pretty straightforward. There's nothing that jumps out in terms of concerns or adverse impacts in terms of the addition of the cold storage structure. So,
Our existing building's been there since 2020. We've had REMA Ecological Services come out, check on wetlands. We did mitigate some wetlands initially. It seems to be, the wetlands seem to be intact. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, do we have to wait for this one, Jim? We have to wait 30 days.
I mean, just to be clear, the new building is in the upland review area?
The addition would be in the upland review area.
Correct. And it's 25 feet out from the existing building.
25 feet out from the existing building, 50 feet along the building. Yes, correct.
and it's a cold storage building, there's no.
That's it, just storage of material. The problem we're having is we're so busy. Actually, we're a very good customer of the previous applicant. And we're having issues storing material outside. I'd like to keep the property presentable. We want to do an addition so we don't have anything on the exterior of the building.
So it's not gonna be heated or anything, it's just gonna be,
No, just cold storage
Cold
of
storage.
material. Yeah. Steel products on pallets and racks. That's pretty much it. Doesn't need to be heated, air conditioned.
vehicles in there, just forklifts or?
Forklift, yes, there would be access to a forklift and pickup truck, shop truck, storage in the shop truck. So we don't have to leave it outside.
Where are we going into the upland review area?
You'd have to look at that
Yeah,
print that's provided in the application.
I want to say it's about 30 feet.
30 feet, I think it was, yeah, 25 or 30 feet, I looked at it.
Again, the footing is already in place, a
Right.
portion of the structure is in place.
It's up in review.
Looks like it's outside. the
Jim, when they say you have, Jim, I have a question. When they say you have to wait 30 days, that's before we go to building department.
Looks like it's outside the upland review area.
No, because this is, I gotta get my bearings. This is Four Rod Road.
This is the existing building.
Right.
This is the
Addition right here.
But there's a wetland flag here. This is 50 feet. Yeah, I don't know if it doesn't even look like the building.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'd like to make a motion to table to the next meeting. We have to wait by, Tom, so we have to wait 30 days.
Sure.
Make a motion to table application 2311W to the December meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Next is application 23-12WF, proposal by John Gaggus. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Care of Stan Kemp Polymers to construct industrial improvements within a floodplain, floodway, and regulated wetland area on lot 10, block 133, 401 Berlin Street, East Berlin.
Thank you very much. My name is Stephen Benben. John Gaggus is the plant operator. Charge, you may know him, but he's not here tonight. I don't think it's necessary for him to be here to go through the application. But Stan Kim is looking to, sounds like it's the theme of the night, looking to expand its storage operations for polymers to create, produce additional paint product. I was here last month to kind of just introduce the project a little bit. So to facilitate the construction, their expansion, they need to build a new containment area for 4 additional tanks and a new truck offloading area. That trucks would come in with product, they would offload into the tanks, and then they would leave the facility.
we are in the floodplain with the improvements. We're in the 50-foot wetland buffer, and there's a minor impact, direct impact to wetlands, about 50 square feet, where our stormwater management facility will discharge down to the Mattabesca River. And because of the steep embankment where it comes out, we need to armor, outlet protection for the pipe that comes out there. Fill that up, come out adjacent, just right next to the river, essentially. So we're gonna have to put in some stone, to protect the embankment from erosion. So that would be the wetland impact. Yeah.
So basically riprap.
Yeah, exactly. So it would be a riprap. It would be there'd be from the top of the embankment down to the river. It would be like emergency overflow spillway. It would be stone, and the typical outfall is through a 6-inch pipe that outlets closer to the river elevation. And again, that would come out in that same kind of riprap area. So we are impacting the wetlands, again, by about 50 square feet. So I didn't come with boards for a big presentation tonight. I think we're heading towards a public hearing for multiple reasons. So we would come back, assuming next month, to present presentation boards and all of that. But generally, we are in the buffer. We said about 10,000 square feet to construct the new truck offloading area. It's a concrete slab where trucks would again pull into a containment area, offload the product into the tanks, and then they would leave.
And these areas are protected from the last presentation, I understand, the elevation.
Yes, yes. So that
rainwater wise and everything.
Yeah, exactly. So the containment structure itself would be elevated up off the ground, so we're not impacting the flood capacity of the floodplain. We're actually creating more storage, about 225 cubic yards of additional storage within the floodplain by doing that, because we're also removing an existing building that's currently in roughly the same footprint. It is just a slab on grade. So by removing that building, we're creating that additional storage. We're going to be lowering the elevation also in that area below the containment structure. So, we're also going to be, so that's one part is, getting rid of kind of a dilapidated storage building that's out there. And then we're also going to be treating stormwater runoff with a new detention basin.
That's quite an operation. That is. When I read it, if when it's just raining, you're going to divert it one way, and when it's
yeah, exactly. So if there are trucks offloading, we don't want any potential spills out there, so that it's redirected to an underground tank for collection. And then if it is raining and there's no trucks there, then that would just get diverted out to the basin.
Is that manually changed, or is it?
I think that we've discussed it. I don't know if we have a final decision on it, but there was discussion about when a truck could be like a safety measure, so that when a truck goes to turn on the pumps, it would automatically close or open the different valves.
Right.
So I don't know if we have a final decision on that yet, but that was
pretty impressive. That was.
Yeah.
From what I read, yeah.
Yeah. So they want to do it the right way.
Yeah.
So like I said, it is impacting, but we think there's a benefit in again, kind of beautifying the area. If you look at it now with photos, it's just a gravel area. There's some concrete bins they use for miscellaneous, stockpiles of debris and things like that. So where all that is, it'll be this new basin. It'll be revegetated, and I think it'll be a benefit to the area. So,
been there a long time, though.
What's that?
They've been there a long time.
They have been there, yeah. Yeah.
But we have to go to public hearing with this, Jim.
Yeah, I'm suggesting for
because of
the public interest
right.
standpoint. Keep in mind that the site is within 500 feet of the town of Cromwell border. Right. So we have notified the town, the Cromwell town clerk of the application. The applicant is notified via certified mail the Cromwell Inland Wetlands Commission. So
have you heard anything from them?
Just from that standpoint, no, we have not.
So
we haven't either.
Okay.
It's best to.
So we're going to make a motion for a public hearing then.
You got any other questions for?
Yeah, happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. the commission member wants to visit the site, how do we make an appointment to do that?
You can, well, actually have someone here from Stanca, maybe you can coordinate that.
Dennis Deshawn from Stanca. You can contact myself or John Gagas, he's the VP of Operations.
Okay.
No, our contacts on the site, you can come see Maureen and Jim's a few
Several
times. And it's in the application.
Okay.
So almost any time you're welcome. Yeah, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
If not,
That's good.
yeah. Well, a motion,
Yeah,
hold a public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open a public hearing on application 23-12WF.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
And we would schedule that public hearing for December 5th.
Number 50, okay.
Great.
See you then.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Other business to come before the commission. First one is 1906 Berlin Turnpike, discussion.
Mr. Chairman, included within your package was previously, I believe we sent it to you previously, and we have a copy for you this evening in front of you, was the results of Land Tech's investigation of 1906 Berlin Turnpike. If you recall, there was a question with the application that was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission. There were two plans or surveys of the property. One indicated that there were inland wetlands on the property, and then that plan was revised and resubmitted to Planning and Zoning, deleting that wetland area. The commission requested a independent third-party review of that site, and Land Tech's report indicates that they agreed with the applicant of 1906 that there are no regulated wetlands on the site or within 50 feet of the boundary of the site.
I read through this and I really.
So it's just for your information, the report was submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their review. And
so there's no action to be taken.
Well, I would recommend that you accept the report as presented.
Oh, okay. From Land Tech, okay.
Yes.
Which just confirms that there's nothing pertinent to us.
Correct.
Right, just that.
Yeah, just the information that we can live with, I guess. Saying that there isn't any wetlands.
So that's all we're doing, we're just accepting this report.
Right.
Correct.
So can I have a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Can I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Wait, who is the most Rogan?
Yeah.
And the second was.
No. All right, next up, application 20-07 WF, proposal by 554 Burlington Associates, LLC to construct a multifamily development and association appurtenance within an upland review area, floodways, and floodplain on lot 11, I can't, is it 11? 13. I got somebody stamped over. Block 83, number 522 Berlin Turnpike. Request for permit modifications.
Good evening again. This is round two. We had the public hearing on lot 14. No public hearing is necessary on this lot 13. We've had a permit, inland wetlands permit since 2021, January 2021. Tonight, we are seeking to modify that. We previously modified it in May of this year based on revisions to our proposal, our proposed development. And tonight, we're here to revise it once again due to revisions to a proposed development. I'll let Steve Judas, who's here again on behalf of the applicant, 554 Berlin Turnpike Associates, just discuss the impacts, the change of impacts, which are none, actually less impacts.
Good evening again. For the record, Stephen Judas with Harry Farms Son at 876 South Main Street in Planceville.
Excuse me. Lisa, sounds like you can't hear me.
You know, just their backs are just getting slashed.
Yeah,
I'm having a hard time.
I'm sorry.
Thank you so much.
I like to keep it low. For the record, Stephen Judas with the Office of Harry Farms Son, 876 South Main Street in Planceville. As our previous public hearing, a lot of the things that I talked about, I'm going to kind of just quickly go through. Those changes are all consistent with the public hearing we had tonight. However, there's a few other items that were part of the original approval that are still consistent. Items 6 here was some impact areas. Item 5 was an upland review area impact for construction detention basin. We're continuing with that proposal. 8 was upland review for impacts for grading around the buildings. 9 was impact around the backside for a trail that was located in that location. The biggest changes that we have with this plan is that we eliminated building number 3, and we had a separate community building that was located above 3, and this parking was configured a little bit differently. So we haven't changed necessarily our impacts in this area, but the biggest significance is removal of the building, removal of that community center, but also we had a walking path that went around this upland review area that we removed from the plan as well. Those are the changes from the original approval.
We're basically downsizing.
We're downsizing, yes. We're pulling back on some of our impacts.
And there's no method, just less of an impact from the original proposal.
Yes.
Was that parking lot there before?
Yes, there was. Yeah, there was. The parking lot was turned a little bit. It was kind of like this, and then the building, because there's a seal and fee easement that runs through here, and the building was outside of the easement, and then this dog walking area was higher, and there was a community center building, separate community center building, and this parking was rotated this way. So this area is the same. It went up a little bit, and we just we haven't moved anything closer to the wetlands. We maintained those separations, but eliminating the building and the walking path.
Are there any considerations, Attorney Capola, that we should take into consideration?
So, no, I mean, I think that they've outlined for you what the changes are for the new proposal that they're likely going to be bringing forward to planning and zoning. I have no comments, no direction for you.
So the square footage of the parking lot is unchanged?
It's slightly smaller because we have less parking.
Yeah, you eliminated a building, so you're eliminating spaces. 2 buildings.
Community center.
Well, community center is really, I wouldn't say that you need parking for that unless you have a party, but you eliminated 1 building, so you're definitely eliminating spaces. Jim, you have no problem with.
As the applicant had mentioned, in terms of the overall impact itself of the structures and improvements, it's less of an impact than what was previously proposed. The setbacks from the wetland areas are
The same, yeah.
We did hold a public hearing on this application, and I want to say, if I recall properly, that I think the hearing was continued 1 or 2 meetings just for clarification on a number of items that were presented to the commission. So there was
But eventually
thorough
it was,
discussion.
yeah, and eventually was approved. And
It was actually modified in May of this year because of revisions.
right. If there's no other questions, comments, I need a motion to approve the new modifications to the proposal.
I'll make that motion, application 20-07WN.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you for your time.
The last one, notice of violation, Old Brickyard Lane.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Ian Cole, professional soil scientist, professional wetland scientist. Coming out of last month's meeting, 166 Old Brickyard Lane, contact me and asked if I would come down to the site, review the unpermitted activities that had occurred, provide kind of my professional opinion, evaluation of, you know, what was the impact and were there any or are there any corrective actions that, you know, they could implement now to further stabilize the area and or mitigate the activities that occur. So to that point, October 25th, so about two and a half weeks ago, I went down to the site and I met Tom Kokomo, the owner of the property, and his site foreman. So they're right now that property is kind of in development, right? They got a whole bunch of activities occurring and they're doing some site work. And in preparation of getting ready to go into operation, I guess there's going to be delivery trucks there. So what occurred on at the terminus of Old Brickyard Lane, the industrial park, there's an old brick pond kind of at the, if you there's, you know, it's a really big kind of cul-de-sac. And that wall of vegetation, if you were to punch through it, there's, you know, the start of a series of the old brick ponds that's that juxtaposition area that's between kind of the terminus of the industrial park and then kind of that open space that abuts Route 9 as you kind of come through there. So they cleared an area that's about 75 feet at the edge of the pond, and they were doing this to kind of create a picnic area for delivery truck drivers while they're waiting. They could sit over there and wait while their trucks were loaded up and then get in the trucks and then drive around the building and take off down the road. So when I got to the site, I kind of reviewed it, and what had occurred was they cleared about 75 feet of brush along the shoreline. It was really kind of limited to just vegetation removal. There really wasn't a substantial amount of anything of kind of like earth moving or anything going on near the pond edge. I provided a letter report to the commission. There's some photos in there. Probably the thing to do is I have a punch list of kind of things to consider in terms of evaluating the impacts that occurred, but the pictures kind of help tell the story a little bit. So on page 5 of that report, there are 2 pictures that show the extent of kind of the clearing along the edge of the pond. So as I said before, so this pond, it's basically, it's there's really no access to the pond edge. It's really along the peripheral of the pond is like just a sea of invasive species, you know, 30 feet tall. You really can't really get even access to the pond edge. So the clearing of this kind of opens up this small little space. This is a warm water pond, you know, sunfish, stuff like that. So, you know, this small clearing hasn't, you know, changed like the thermal properties of the pond. It hasn't set, you know, the pond and off balance by clearing out this section. In fact, you might be able to argue that it's creating a little bit of a diversity niche for things like snapping turtles now have some open space and some connectivity to go from the forested landscape around the edge of the industrial park and kind of make its way to that. You know, they have the same issue that we have, right? There's that physical wall of vegetation they can't get through. So upon my investigation, there were no signs of sedimentation migration, nothing. There were no signs of concentrated flow, so it's not like this area opened up and then all of a sudden there was now an avenue for stormwater to come rushing down into the pond. So the ground conditions were fairly stable. 166 Old Brickyard Road had installed perimeter silt fence towards the toe of the slope, and then about mid-slope up, there's a really strong wood chip berm in place. And the whole slope, they basically wood chipped some of the vegetation and stabilized the landscape that way. They did install some landscape plantings, but they're not very robust, and they're not kind of pointed towards something that one would say like that's a mitigating factor to offset what happened here. So to that point, we kind of discussed, you know, keeping the silt fence installed over the winter, keeping the wood chip berm over the winter, introducing and getting in 15 new shrub plantings, 4 foot tall, something more robust. We picked out 3 native species in the report, basically spice bush, sweet pepper bush, and a dogwood. And we would basically plant these in basically 3 clumps along the shoreline to break that landscape up a little bit and also provide some enhancement for wildlife and things like that. This is a case where, honestly, if you did nothing, the type of vegetation that's in there, autumn olive, honeysuckle, bittersweet, very aggressive. It's still all along the landscape. It would reclaim this area within 5 years. It would be almost unrecognizable as such of going in there and clearing it. So, you know, what the applicant would like to do moving forward is just with hand tools, you know, yearly, you know, install these plants. They would help offset the invasive species from moving in quickly, but also set kind of a perimeter of, you know, hey, if the landscaping crew, if you need to go down there annually and like remove some of these bittersweet vines, you can do so with hand tools. But that's what it would be limited to. And then they would maintain the wood chips kind of there so that they have this picnic area for a viewscape for their delivery trucks moving forward. They also, at the edge of the terminus 2 Old Brickyard Road, were installing, I believe they installed it, a stockade fence, and then that's going to be backed by 6-foot tall arborvitaes to kind of buffer the viewscape that's, you know, that's changed a little bit down there, and also to dissuade the landscaping guys that kind of clear the edge of the lawn there. So it was a common place for them to dump all their lawn clippings and whatnot right near the pond edge. It was like a little cutout. It will stop that activity too. And then lastly, 166 Old Brickyard Road, at the upper limits of basically the buffer between their developed area and this picnic area, they placed some large stone boulders. And that was to prevent any kind of future encroachments from ever migrating its way direction.
Weren't there issues with the next door neighbor? And then going onto their property?
Mr. Chairman, Brad Wayman, the owner of 245 Old Brickyard Lane, Mr. Martino is here with me, his co-owners. I think what you might not be aware of in the report that was just presented to the commission is that a lot of the activities were on our property. They were not on Mr. Kokomo's property. So I believe that we want no maintenance at all. We want to return to the way it was. And I had submitted a memo to Jim Horrible as of just the other day. It's the same time I got the report from Mr. Cole. And in the last meeting that was had before the commission, the chairman had asked for a map that showed the changes in topography that was there. And we believe the topography has been changed pretty significantly, that Mr. Kokomo pushed his parking lot closer to the pond because we are now unable to locate the iron pin that specifically is addressed on the plan of development that was submitted when he built the new, he's in the process of getting approved for this new development he's building. So we want to have a plan done by the engineer and stamped that shows the plan of when it was approved for development and shows exactly what's going on there now, because there's been a significant amount of movement in there and dirt that's not to our favor. This is pushed onto ours and made the grades much steeper. The plan that he had provided shows some additional plans that are not robust at all, and they're not on our property, which we're the ones who've been violated. And to even take that one step further, if you go there, the plan that Mr. Kokomo provided shows that the last plan, it shows a number of round rocks that show. It shows that he actually violated the other property owner, Shelburne, who's been issuing a cease and desist to stop going on their property. So it seems to be a fairly common course of action that this property owner will go onto other people's property. So we need to have a plan that we can all get behind and understand. We have to have a plan that's stamped, it's engineered, shows all the topography, shows where the iron pin is or it's not, shows what the change in grades were, and shows where the buffer is. So we can say what manipulation of the soil took place within or without it, within the buffer was out, not in the buffer. So without those documents, I don't know how we can sit here and have any kind of meaningful dialogue other than to say, we still have been violated. We still don't feel there's a appropriate plan in place to restore our property. So I had a landscape architect go out and say that we need, one of the ways could be to plant these plants. I think there was 8 pine trees and 9, I forget the verbanums or something like that. I don't know the exact names. Along our property line, we certainly want there to be no additional movement at all by Mr. Kokomo on our property to touch it with hand tools or anything. We actually want to find out where the defined property line is, and we plan on putting up a 6-foot chain link fence because we don't want Mr. Kokomo or any other people going onto our property. It's a Now that we have an open pond there, it becomes a visual hazard now. People come down there and hang out. We had for years, that's why we let it overgrow. We've had people come down and hang out, have parties there, launch kayaks and do a whole thing. It becomes attractive nuisance. So we want it to be all overtaken again. That's what we want. We don't want it to be visual from anywhere.
And you saw that too. That's what the police department wanted too. We worked with the town to prevent what was going on there before it was overgrown.
Yeah, because there's constantly garbage down there. Every weekend we'd have to go down to Sensible, pick up bottles and everything else.
And I do remember that I requested Mr. Kokomo to get you involved and to get a surveyor to find out where the property line was, and we never got like that, did we, Jim?
To the best of my knowledge.
We had an approximate sketch.
Right.
But it was not a.
But nothing stamped, nothing, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that I had are the GIS tools. I'm actually not a land surveyor, and I had no conversations with Mr. Kokomo and land surveying stuff. I will just to dovetail into what 245. I'm sorry.
That's Brad and Bob.
The restitution, to your point, and to have it go back the way it was prior to this, that's going to be very easy to accomplish. Really, I mean, honestly, if you installed a fence of whatever choosing yours along the property line, and you walked away from that, within 5 years, you more or less have a maintenance issue for the vegetation taking over your fence. And that's how quickly this stuff will be reclaimed.
Well, we have an issue with property thin and grading changes that have to be.
That's survey engineering stuff that I can't honestly help with.
It's not an area of Mr.
Right, I understand. I mean, what you did was what you were set to do. But that's.
I can say, in terms of creating stuff like this, I think a lot of the activities that are being discussed here is around the property core and stuff. I can say firmly, at the edge of the pond itself, the wetland boundary itself, that area really was limited to just vegetation kind of moving around. There wasn't earth moving activities down there. But, the upland review area and stuff like that, where there's a developed envelope, that's, as far as I knew, that area was permitted. There's clearly activities that have occurred in the upland review area on adjacent properties from those landowners doing clearing. You can see even on the GIS website, when you scroll through the subsequent years, the veg cover changes.
So what's our next step, Jim? I mean, is there?
I would like to defer to Attorney Capola for suggestions as to how to handle this situation.
Well, I want to hear from Jim. I want to know what.
Jim has had conversations with the property.
Yes.
And I do recall, I was here last month, I recall that